Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Dear students, you are welcome in this class. Today we are going to discuss potassium in soil and potassic fertilizer. Means we will see dynamics of potassium in soil and also discuss the important fertilizer that have some value to supply potassium. Learning objectives are to learn the status, forms and availability of potassium in soil, to describe the composition and properties of potassic fertilizer. Glossary: exchangeable potassium. It is determined by extracting the soil with neutral 1 normal ammonium acetate. Most of time we use it in our laboratories and hence includes water soluble potassium also. The entire quantity is known as available potassium in soils. Potash. It designates potassium oxide K2O. Potassium oxide is never used as such in fertilizers. The term potash is loosely applied to potassium salts. Potash mica, also known as muscovite or white mica, a layer structured aluminosilicate mineral group of 2:1 type, characterized by a high layer charge satisfied by potassium. Potash nitrate or potassium nitrate, also called as nitrate of potash, is a naturally occurring fertilizer containing about 15% nitrogen and 40 to 45% potash. That means it supplies both potassium and nitrogen. Potassium adsorption ratio. The potassium adsorption ratio PAR estimates the exchangeable potassium percentage of a soil and expresses the relative activity of potassium cation in the exchange reactions with soil. Potassium bicarbonate, chemical formula is KHCO3. It is a white crystalline solid soluble in water. It decomposes at about 120 degrees centigrade and contains about 28% potassium in the form of K2O. Potassium chloride, it is also known as muriate of potash, most common potassic fertilizer in India. It is generally blended with other components to make it a multi-nutrient fertilizer. Sometimes it is mixed with urea or DAP. It is a white crystalline solid available in fine, coarse and granular grades containing 48 to 52% of K2O and 48% chloride. Potassium fixation. Of course, today we will discuss in detail how this potassium fixation happens, what are the factors that affect potassium fixation and what can be done to avoid it. So, the process of converting exchangeable or water soluble potassium to its non-exchangeable or water insoluble form is known as K fixation or potassium fixation. Potassium metaphosphate, salt of metaphosphoric acid, it is a readily available source of phosphorus and potassium to plants and comprises 60% P and 40% K2O. Potassium isconite, also called as potash magnesia fertilizer. It contains both or rather three things: potassium, sulfate and magnesium. So, it is prepared from a mixed salt obtained from solar evaporation of bitters in salt pans. Potassium sulfate, it is another important fertilizer in India, a white crystalline material moderately hygroscopic, available in fine granular and semi-granular forms, and it contains 48 to 54% K2O. Quantity intensity relationship, it reflects the capacity of the soil to buffer the solution against the change in the activity of ion like potassium, and it is also studied with respect to phosphorus. Now, let us start just introduction potassium in plant. So, in the plant, potassium regulates the flow of water and other materials across cell membranes and helps regulate a wide variety of chemical and enzymatic processes. Potassium itself does not form any chemical compounds, means it is not part of any chemical molecule or organic molecule in plants, but rather serves to balance ionic electrical charges by moving back and forth across cell membranes. So, it has a very great role in opening and closing of stomata. In doing so, potassium is essential for nutrient uptake and movement through the plant and in maintaining water balance in the plant. It is thus essential for the utilization of other nutrients and water, even though it does not chemically combine with other nutrients. Much of the potassium used by a growing crop is not accumulated in the grain, but it is left in the crop residue like stalks, leaves and straw. Larger part of potassium in plant that have been absorbed is mostly diverted to straw, particularly in cereals like maize, wheat, rice or sugarcane. When the plant dies, potassium is easily leached down from crop residue and may even leach from living plant tissue under heavy rainfall. For forage crops where the entire plant is harvested, crop care removal rates are much high because many times we take many cuttings of fodder crops like berseem, lucerne or oats or even multicut sorghum, where we require lot of potassium because we harvest it many times. Every harvest removes significant quantity of potassium. So, it is also true for sugarcane and some cereal crops grown in many countries in Asia, where both grain and straw are harvested from the fields for human and animal consumption respectively. Now, see what happens to the potassium in soil. We are going to discuss dynamics of potassium in soil. K deficiency is most strongly expressed in acid red and lateritic soils or on organic soils that have few potassium bearing minerals. Soil rich in 2:1 type clays and those in arid or semi-arid areas are generally better supplied with K than soils in humid region. In humid regions, soils are having comparatively low potassium level, mainly because of leaching. In those areas, there is very heavy rainfall, and because of this, potassium is leached down and deficiency of potassium is prevalent there. So, because of lower or no leaching losses in the former, under dry conditions there are no losses, therefore, their K levels are high. Among cations, potassium is absorbed by plants in the largest amount. Other cations are calcium, magnesium or sodium. Of course, it is not essential. Considering all the cations, metallic, this micronutrients, this potassium is removed in largest quantities and sometimes even more than nitrogen in cereals. So, the four important forms of potassium in soil are mineral K. There are some minerals in the soil which contain potassium. Number of K bearing minerals are there in the soil. Number 2 is non-exchangeable K or potassium or K fixed in between clay plates. We will see how it is fixed in 2:1 type of clays or 1:1 type of clays, this potassium fixation. Exchangeable K and K present in the soil solution. So, mainly there are four forms of potassium in the soil. Regarding availability and non-availability, now see the abundance of different K fractions as follows. Number 1, 90 to 98% of total K is in mineral form. It is there in the minerals, which is relatively but not ultimately inaccessible to a growing crop. Most of the time the nutrients from these minerals, particularly potassium, is released very slowly depending upon the requirement of solution and exchangeable K. And 1 to 10% of total K is in non-exchangeable forms, which is slowly available. The third is 1 to 2% of total potassium is in the exchangeable and water soluble form. And interestingly, of this 1 to 2%, about 90% may be exchangeable and 10% in the solution form. So, all these are in dynamic equilibrium. This is interesting, and also you can see very small fraction of total K is in the solution from where plants remove the potassium. Now, K dynamics are determined by the rate of K exchange from the clay and organic matter surfaces and the charges, ionic charges, cation exchange capacity of the soil, which is determined by clay colloids as well as organic colloids like humus, and the rate of release from the soil minerals. Except for sandy soils, potassium is stored on the surface of negatively charged clay minerals. In sandy soils, there is very fast leaching of potassium because it is positively charged, and if there is low cation exchange capacity in the sandy soil, then they cannot absorb the K which is released from mineral or organic sources. Therefore, it leaches down easily. This easily replaceable supply provides the soil solution with additional K when the soil solution K concentration decreases as a result of crop uptake. There is regular removal of potassium from the soil solution, which is replenished by other kind of potassium which are available in exchangeable forms. Most traditional soil test measurements of available K include the exchangeable and the water soluble fractions. There is increasing evidence that a part of the non-exchangeable fraction or fixed potassium should also be included in soil test measurements for making meaningful K fertilizer recommendations. So, these are the feeling of the soil scientists who are involved in soil testing, particularly testing of potassium. Now, see potassium dynamics in the soil, what is happening to the potassium in soil. So, this is very general view of potassium dynamics. So, by A. E. Johnston, he gave this picture, and you just see this soil solution potassium. So, it is available in soil solution K plus, and roots, if they are there, they can extract this solution or this potassium. Now, first you see what are the sources. Sources could be crop residues, fertilizers and manures. So, this is input of potassium, and then where from this potassium has come in crop residues? It has come from the crop uptake, and that is your crop removal. Now, in soil solution, because it is available form K plus, then it is readily available K form, which is exchangeable. So, it is in equilibrium with readily available K. If there is removal of K from the soil solution by the plants, or if there is leaching, so K from the exchangeable side will compensate for the K lost from the soil solution. Similarly, less available K is in equilibrium with readily available K, that is exchangeable K. And finally, you see very slowly available K. So, if there is shortage of potassium in the soil solution, it will be replaced from readily available K exchangeable, and exchangeable can be replaced by less available K, and so on. So, these kind of reactions happen in the soil. And also see your potassium can be lost by surface runoff and also by loss in drainage. So, please try to understand and interpret this picture in detail. Now, see, at any given time there may be only 12 to 15 kilogram per hectare of K in the soil solution, which is very small quantity, but there are large supplies of exchangeable K attached to the soil in various amounts of availability. The soil solution is constantly replenished through the cation exchange process as potassium ions are taken up from the soil solution by the plant roots. Potassium in its ionic form occurs in equilibrium in many processes in the soil. Just now you have seen it. Now, transport of potassium in soil. So, potassium moves longer than the phosphorus, it is known, and nitrogen move the most. Movement of nitrogen is highest, followed by potassium, then phosphorus. So, in this case you see the situation, mechanism and rate of transport in centimeter per day. In profile, soil profile, it is mainly mass flow, moves through the process of mass flow, and up to 10 centimeter per day this potassium can move. So, mass flow is very important mechanism. And then around the fertilizer source, it is by both process mass flow as well as diffusion, and very small movement, that is less than 0.1 centimeter per day. Around the roots mainly by diffusion, and diffusion, I think you understand, movement of substances from higher concentration to the lower concentration. and it happens 0.01 to 0.1 centimeter per day. And out of clay interlayers, it is very complexly held, and diffusion is the process, and 10 to power minus 7 centimeter per day. Very little or very insignificant movement from the clay interlayers. Now you see again this kind of relative amount of potassium in the various pools. Of course, you have seen this cycle before, but now in this picture you see losses are also mentioned, and besides this the relative amount of different forms of potassium is also given in this picture. So again you concentrate on soil solution where you have K ion 0.1 to 0.2% only, and then you see this is compensated by primary minerals which are having 90 to 98% of potassium, non-exchangeable 1 to 10% and exchangeable only 1 to 2%. And this soil solution K is contributed from all these sources directly or indirectly, and it is added through fertilizers, through crop residues, maybe animal or human, whatever organic sources are there. If they are added into the soil, they will yield some potassium. Now slowly available forms, that is K fixation. The most slowly available form is when potassium is fixed in the clay interlayers. So soil clays composed of vermiculite, smectite and certain other 2:1 type minerals not only attract and absorb potassium ion from the soil solution, including those added as fertilizers in exchangeable form, but may also fix some of the potassium ion in tightly held non-exchangeable forms. So potassium as well as the similar sized ammonium ions fit in between layers in the crystals of these normally expanding clays and become an integral part of the crystal. So there is actually competition between ammonium and potassium because their ionic radii is same. So first suppose potassium enters and it stays there and it is tightly held. If you want to take it out, let us just apply some ammonical fertilizer which will try to replace the potassium, and other way around also. If you have more ammonium inside the interclay layers or interlayers of the clay minerals, then you can apply this potassic fertilizer to release ammonium. So this is the situation. These ions cannot be replaced by ordinary exchange process and consequently are referred to as non-exchangeable ions. That is the reason. As such, these ions are not readily available to most plants. This form is in equilibrium, however, with the more available forms and consequently acts as an extremely important reservoir of slowly available nutrients. Now you see this picture, this tells you ammonium ions, here they are not shown, are of similar size and charge to potassium ions and may be fixed by similar reaction. So see these three pictures. The first picture on the left side, you see they are fine grained micas, elite, mainly elite, and cation exchange capacity is 15 to 40 millicoulomb. Then you see vermiculite, it is having cation exchange capacity of 150, very high cation exchange capacity. And you see this green circles with green color in the nucleus. This is your potassium. So potassium is there in the two interlayers of the clay minerals, that is vermiculite, and afterwards it is very tightly held. So it is your actually non-exchangeable kind of potassium. Now the quantity of non-exchangeable or fixed potassium in some soils is quite large. In some soils it is very less, but certain soils or conditions the fixation of potassium is very high. The fixed potassium in such soil is continuously released to the exchangeable form in amounts large enough to important for plant nutrition. Now you see how this is released, this fixed potassium can be released. Table on the next slide shows the magnitude of the release of non-exchangeable potassium from certain soils. I will show you shortly. In these soils, the potassium removed by plants was supplied largely from the non-exchangeable forms. So there it acts as a store or storage. The entire equilibrium may be represented for potassium as follows. So see, this is non-exchangeable K or fixed K, but the process is slow. The release is very slow. It can go to the exchangeable K, and from exchangeable K there may be rapid transfer to the soil solution K. So this is how they exchange, have equilibrium with each other. Now see this picture or table, potassium removal by intensive cropping and the amount of this element coming from the non-exchangeable form. How much is the contribution of non-exchangeable potassium when we grow the crops? So see, there are different soils from Wisconsin or Mississippi, whatever country it is there, it is just for the information that in silt loam, total K used by the crop was 133 kg per hectare, out of which 75% was contributed by non-exchangeable forms. See the next case, silt loam soil, again 80% of phosphorus potassium was non-exchangeable, contributed from non-exchangeable form. See the next case, but when it is sandy soil, sand, contribution was just 25% derived from the non-exchangeable form. Again fine silt loam, it was 33, and see the case of clay. In clay it was again higher, 47% K was derived from the non-exchangeable form, and sandy loam soils it was just 24%. So it is quite clear that in heavy texture soil there is more contribution of non-exchangeable potassium than the light texture soils. As a result of these relationship, very sandy soils with low cation exchange capacity are poorly buffered with respect of potassium. In them, the potassium ion concentration may be quite high at the beginning of a growing season or just after fertilization, but these soils have little capacity to maintain the potassium concentration. They cannot sustain the supply of potassium as plants remove the dissolved potassium from the soil solution during the growing season. In finer texture soils, because they have very greater cation exchange capacity and therefore greater buffering capacity, the initial soil concentration of potassium may be somewhat lower, but the soil is capable of maintaining a fairly constant supply of solution potassium ions throughout the growing season. Now, ammonium ion has a similar ionic radius as K ion and can also be fixed. Cations such as calcium and sodium have higher ionic radii than potassium and do not move into the interlayer positions. It is mainly because of the higher ionic radii they cannot enter. Because ammonium ion can be fixed by clays in a manner similar to potassium ion, its presence will after both fixation of added K and release of fixed K. Just as the presence of potassium ion can block the release of fixed ammonium, the presence of ammonium can partially block the release of fixed potassium. Ammonium ion held in the interlayer positions further traps potassium already presents. So K fixation is generally more important in fine texture soil than in light texture soils. Although fixation reactions are not considered a serious factor in limiting crop response to either applied ammonium or applied K ion, increasing potassium ion concentration in soils with a high fixation capacity will obviously encourage greater fixation. Now let us discuss in detail what are the factors that affect the potassium fixation in soil, or otherwise we can say that what are the factors that increases the availability of the non-exchangeable potassium or fixed potassium. So there are mainly two factors, effects of type of clay and moisture and influence of pH. There may be some more factors, but these two factors are more important. So effect of type of clay and moisture. So the various soil colloids vary widely in their ability to fix potassium. Kaolinite and other 1:1 type of clays fix little potassium. There is no fixation if your clay are 1:1 type. On the other hand, clays of the 2:1 type such as vermiculite, fine grained mica which is illite and smectite fix potassium very readily and in large quantities. Therefore, soils which are dominated by 2:1 type of clay minerals will fix more potassium compared to soils which have more of kaolinite. Even silt-sized fractions of soil micaceous minerals fix and subsequently release potassium. Effect of clay and moisture continues. The potassium and ammonium ions are attracted between layers in the negatively charged clay crystals. The tendency for fixation is greatest in minerals where the major source of negative charge is in the silica, that is tetrahedral structure or sheet. Consequently, vermiculite has a greater fixing capacity than Montmorillonite. Similarly, moisture or water also have effect on this non-exchangeable K. Alternate wetting or drying and freezing or thawing enhance both the fixation of potassium in non-exchangeable forms and the release of previously fixed potassium to the soil solution. Although its mechanism is not very well understood, it results in marked seasonal variation in the amounts of exchangeable potassium available for plant uptake. Now, see influence of pH. I think most of you are aware of the pH. It is mainly hydrogen ion, negative logarithm of hydrogen ion concentration, and definitely if your pH is lower, acidic, then you need to add liming. So, application of lime sometimes increases potassium fixation in acidic soils. In strongly acidic soils, the tightly held hydrogen ion and hydroxy-aluminum ions prevent the potassium ions from being closely associated with the colloidal surfaces, thus reducing their susceptibility to fixation. As lime increases the pH, the hydrogen ion and hydroxyl aluminum ions are removed or neutralized, making it easier for potassium ions to move closer to the colloidal surfaces, where they are more susceptible to fixation in 2:1 type of clays. pH continues. So, furthermore, high calcium and magnesium levels in the soil solution may reduce potassium uptake by the plant because cations tend to compete against one another for uptake by the roots. Since the absorption of the potassium ion by plant roots is affected by the activity of other ions in the soil solution, some authorities prefer to use the ratio rather than the potassium concentration to indicate the available potassium level in solution, because these are actually kind of brothers. This potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, they do not like each other. They always compete with each other. So, therefore, it is better to write it as potassium ratio of potassium and calcium magnesium. So, potassium ion divided by under root calcium ion plus magnesium ion. Finally, potassium deficiency frequently occurs in calcareous soils, even when the amount of exchangeable potassium present would be adequate for plant nutrition on other soils. Potassium fixation as well as cation ratios may be responsible for these adverse effects on calcium carbonate rich soil or calcareous soils. Now, we start the potassic fertilizers and different formulations. So, potash fertilizers are predominantly water soluble salts, means they can easily solubilize in water. For historical reasons, their K concentration, potassium concentration is generally still expressed as percentage K2O, particularly by the industry, trade and extension. Similarly, for phosphorus also, it does not exist in P2O5 form, but they report in P2O5 form, mainly because it looks very high, the value looks very high. So, therefore, industry people like to quote potassium and phosphorus in their oxide form. Similarly, long back for nitrogen, people were reporting nitrogen in ammonia form, so that it looks very high concentration, but now for nitrogen it is on elemental basis. So, as such, the nutrient potassium does not exist as K2O in soils, plants or in fertilizer. It is present as the potassium ion in soils or plants, and as a chemical compound like KCl is your potassium chloride, K2SO4 is potassium sulfate in fertilizer. So, these KCl and K2SO4 are quite common in India and elsewhere also. The formula to convert K to K2O is K into 1.2. So, it can be converted into K2O. If you want otherwise also, then you can divide it and you will get in terms of K, means K is equal to K2O divided by 1.2. Origin and reserves large deposits of crude potassium salts were first found in Germany in the mid 1850s. In recent times, deposits in several countries, especially in Canada, have been mined and utilized for the production of potash fertilizer. Canada and the countries of the former Soviet Union have 90% of the known potash reserves. Unfortunately, there are no reserves of potassium chloride in India or any other potassium salt. So, therefore, in India we depend upon import. All quantity of potassic fertilizer is imported in India. Really, it is unfortunate, but we cannot produce potassium chloride. But in some countries, people can use it directly without any refinement or without any taking it into factory and so on. It can be used in raw form also. However, people like to sell it in the packaged bags, and this is all business actually. So, these deposits were formed millions of years ago during the process of drying up of sea water in former ocean basins. So, these have generated from the ocean water actually. So, layers of common salt, that is sodium chloride, were overlain by the smaller layers of potassium minerals which hardened to rock under pressure. Crude potassium salts are thus natural seawater minerals, we can call them, which are now mined from greater depths because of continuous requirement. Now, people are mining, but there is hope that people will find someday more reserves of potassic fertilizers, more mines can be explored. So, world K reserves are large and more are expected to be discovered by the people. The first potash fertilizers were ground crude potassic salts containing 13% K2O. In the beginning, it was very low level of potassium, which was just 13% as K2O. These are still used to some extent for fertilization of grasslands in order to supply potassium and sodium. These certain grasslands are common in some European countries, temperate areas, maybe in Australia, New Zealand. There they fertilize it, because many times these perennial crops, in perennial crops the requirement of potassium is very high. For the persistency of grasses in grasslands or rangelands, you need application of potassium, or particularly in pasture lands where people are growing pastures, perennial crops are grown. So, in those situations, role of potassium becomes very eminent. And also in grasslands you have some legume plants also. They also require sufficient quantity of potassium for long term survival. So, they are also accepted in biofarming. Your biofarming is a kind of organic farming. If your potassium chloride is in natural form, it has not been synthesized in the laboratory chemically, or it has not been refined chemically, then it can be easily allowed under organic farming system. Because in organic farming system, nutrient management is a difficult job. So, certain raw materials, mined materials can be utilized directly under biofarming or organic farming, and they are being used also. There are many rock minerals also where you find micronutrients, potassium and some other minerals, calcium, gypsum is also allowed, lime is allowed. So, such kind of minerals and materials can be used in raw form in biofarming or in organic systems. So, the main K fertilizer used at present are purified salts. You need to do certain operation, cleaning of the material, so that purity is maintained, and the farmers or people who buy it, they must know that what content of potassium is there in the materials they are buying. Potash fertilizers are mainly derived from geological saline deposits. It is clear by now to you. Although low grade unrefined materials can be used directly. Most fertilizer products now in use are high concentration material, at least 40%, 45%, 60%, even more percentage of potassium is coming up, and they are also becoming part of NPK fertilizer. In the manufacture of NPK fertilizer, the K part is mostly compensated by potassium chloride or muriate of potash. So, although low grade unrefined materials can be used directly, most fertilizer products now in use are high analysis fertilizer, high concentration of potassium, which are mostly water soluble and quick acting. Within a week, they are dissociated into their respective ions. For example, KCl, it is dissociated into potassium ion and chloride ion very quickly and very easily. Then plants take up this potassium and chloride ion. Besides the salt deposits, there are K containing industrial waste products. Number of waste products can be utilized to supply potassium, like dust from cement production that can serve as a K fertilizer. Similarly, crop residues can be used to supply potassium. The rice straw, which is mostly burnt by farmers, it contains about 1.8% potassium, which is very rich source of potassium. And if it is recycled back to the field, if it is incorporated into the soil after cutting it into pieces and incorporated, or the residues are retained on the surface, it can supply lot of potassium to the soil. Hence, farmers who are practicing cereal crops, they should try to bring back the crop residues into the soil so that potassium can be applied or supplied through organic sources also. Now, we start with potassium chloride or muriate of potash. This is really most common and wonderful fertilizer in the world, containing about 60% K2O. Most potassium deposits are found in as KCl. The name of the mineral is sylvite mixed with NaCl. Under natural conditions, these two minerals are mixed in the mines. They are in the ore forms, they are mixed together, and the NaCl or sodium chloride mineral is halite. In the mineral sylvanite, often in ancient marine deposits buried deep beneath the earth's surface. In processing, the ore is crushed and the potassium chloride and sodium chloride are separated. So, the procedures are available to separate the sodium chloride from potassium chloride. Then the same potassium chloride can be bagged, can be put in the bags, transported and marketed for their use by the farmers. Potassium chloride continues. In a few locations, the ore is dissolved with hot water and pumped to the surface as soluble sylvanite, and then the water is evaporated. This is another method of purifying or producing KCl or muriate of potash. In the Dead Sea, that is Israel or Jordan, and Great Salt Lake, that is in Utah, USA, the potassium salts are recovered from brine water by solar evaporation. This is another technique of purifying the fertilizer. And potassium chloride is 60 to 63% K2O and 50 to 52% K and 45 to 47% of chloride. So, therefore, lot of chloride is supplied by potassium chloride. So, that is a issue, main issue. Regularly, if we supply too much of chloride, that can become toxic to the plants. If it is not leached down, if it is not removed from the soil, then toxicity of chloride is also possible. So, therefore, chloride as an element is never considered to apply, because whatever requirement is there, it is mostly met from the potassium chloride. And potassium chloride is also known to deteriorate the quality, the keeping quality of certain substances like potato and tobacco. And in these crops where quality is more important, chloride fertilizer should not be allowed or used. In that case, other sources like potassium nitrate or potassium sulfate can be used to supply potassium under those conditions. So, it is usually surface applied prior to the tillage or banded near the seed row. In very narrowly spaced crops, some people have broadcast application also. However, band application is useful, and due to the high salt content, potassium chloride should not be placed directly with the seed, because the salt index of this fertilizer is quite high. So it can be quite injurious to the germinating seedling. So it dissolves readily in the soil solution into potassium and chloride ions. The potassium attaches to cation exchange sites in the soil, clay and organic matter. Most of the KCl fertilizers are white, but some K materials are reddish in color due to presence of trace amount of iron oxide, but both are identical for agronomic use. Most of the students know that KCl or muriate of potash is always white in color. It is not the case. Sometimes you will find it is red in color also. All the grains or granules of this fertilizer are red in color, and sometimes in the market you will find the mixture of two, some proportion of white and some proportion of red KCl. So it is possible, but both will have, color does not matter whether it is red or white, the potassium content will remain same, because you got some extra levels of this iron oxide, because of which you get red color in the potassic fertilizer KCl. So pure forms of KCl may be dissolved for use in fluid fertilizer or application in irrigation water. Next fertilizer is potassium sulfate. It is the chemical formula is K2SO4. So also called as sulfate of potash. Sometimes SOP is another name for potassium sulfate, and it contains a 48% to 53% K2O and 17 to 18% sulfur. So this is the added advantage of this fertilizer, that besides potassium, it also supplies sulfur as well. So balanced fertilization can be encouraged if we use this potassium sulfate. Potassium sulfate is found in mineral deposits mixed with other minerals. The components are separated by rinsing them with water. Potassium sulfate is also produced by the chemical reactions of different crude salts, as also by the reaction of KCl with sulfuric acid. The potassium in sulfate of potash or potassium sulfate functions similar as in KCl, but SOP is also an important source of sulfur, where the soil is also sulfur deficient. Potassium sulfate is less soluble than KCl, so it is not commonly used in irrigation water. If you are using fertigation technique, want to supply potassium through fertigation, then KCl is a better source than potassium sulfate. But potassium sulfate is sometimes applied as a foliar spray if potassium and sulfate are both required. So particularly in cereal crops, it has been recommended, generally we go for 2% spray of potassium sulfate in fall as foliar spray, and in some crops potassium nitrate is also a good source of foliar spray. 2% potassium nitrate can be applied foliarly, that will supply potassium as well as nitrogen to the plant. So it is also used to supply K to chloride sensitive crops like tobacco and potatoes. These are very sensitive crop. The quality of tobacco is declined if you have KCl as fertilizer. So next potassic fertilizer is potassium magnesium sulfate, which is K2SO4 2MgSO4, means it is a multi-nutrient fertilizer containing potassium, sulfur and magnesium. It is also called as langbeinite, sulfate of potash, magnesia, or commercially it is known as sulpomag. Langbeinite is a unique mineral found in only a few locations of the world. It is not very common throughout the world. Commercially, it comes from underground mines near Carlsbad, Germany or New Mexico. This langbeinite contains 21 to 22% K2O or potassium, 10 to 11% magnesium as Mg and 21 to 20% sulfur as S. You can see interesting fact is that equal quantity of K2O and sulfur is there in this fertilizer. It is a popular fertilizer where its three main nutrients potassium, magnesium and sulfur are needed. So this fertilizer actually encourages balanced fertilization, and it is water soluble but slow to dissolve, and unlike other magnesium and sulfur fertilizer, it has a neutral effect on soil pH. it will not acidify your soil or it will not make your soil alkaline. Then next fertilizer is potassium nitrate. Chemical formula is KNO3, or it is also known as saltpeter. It is a popular fertilizer for high value crops that need nitrate form of nitrogen and also potassium. It is especially popular as a K source for crops that are sensitive to chloride. And another fact about potassium nitrate is that it is quick acting. The release of potassium and nitrogen is very fast. Nitrate is directly made available to the plant. Similarly, potassium ion is also made available quickly. So, it is having 13% nitrogen and 44 to 46% potassium as K2O. It can be soil applied or applied as a foliar treatment to stimulate fruit development when root activity is declining and is a common nutrient source for fertigation. So, dear students, somewhere you have seen the variability in the content of potassium in different fertilizer material. You find some range. Similarly, but in India, we have fertilizer control order. It is a official document from the government side where every fertilizer company that is registering its material has to declare that what content of nutrient is there in its product. So, whenever you buy potassic fertilizer or phosphatic fertilizer or any fertilizer, the nutrient content is necessarily mentioned there on the bag. So, one can check the exact concentration or exact content of the nutrient on the bag or packing material. Potassium phosphate K4P2O7, KS2PO4 or K2HPO4. So, potassium phosphates are many, 3 phosphates are mentioned here. They can be used as a source of potassium as well as a source of phosphorus. So, several K phosphates have been produced and marketed on a limited basis. Their advantages are that they are high analysis fertilizer. So, also low salt index. Low salt index means they are not injurious to the seedlings or growing plant. They cannot be toxic or phytotoxic. Useful for preparation of clear fluid fertilizers high in K2O. Polyphosphate as a phosphorus source and well suited for use on potatoes and other crops sensitive to excessive amounts of chloride. Potassium carbonate K2CO3, potassium bicarbonate KHCO3, potassium hydroxide, they also find some use as a fertilizer, but not very large scale they are used. These salts are used primarily for the production of high purity fertilizers for foliar application or other specialty uses. It is not that common. The high cost of manufacture has precluded their widespread use as commercial fertilizers. Potassium thiosulfate K2S2O3 and potassium polysulfide, it is written as KSX, that means S can take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, it is polysulfide. Analysis of these liquid fertilizers K2S2O3 and KSX is 0, 0, 25, 17, means 25 is K and 17 is sulfur. K is with respect to K2O and then 0, 0, 22, 23. That means it has 22% K, K2O and 23% sulfur, this KSX. K2S2O3 potassium thiosulfate is compatible with most liquid fertilizers and is well suited for foliar application and drip irrigation. So, therefore, such kind of fertilizers are getting developed in the market and people are trying some new product, particularly in fertigation systems. Now, I put forward certain specific point that students must remember with respect to use of potassic fertilizer in crop production. So, several industrial residues containing potassium, for example, filter dust, have been developed for use as a slow acting forms, especially where it is desired to avoid loss by leaching. If soils are such where one is expecting more leaching losses of potassium ion, then in those situations such industrial products can be used along with the chemical fertilizer. Means conjunctive use of chemical fertilizer and such industrial residues can be made to reduce the leaching of potassic ions. Potash fertilizer should generally be applied at sowing time because their movement in soil is very slow and they must be put near the root like your phosphatic fertilizer. The potassium ions are adsorbed in soil and thus remain available, yet largely protected against leaching. However, split application is advisable for some crops in soils and climates where high leaching losses may be expected, particularly in sandy soils and you have frequent irrigations growing some cereal crops. Then it is advisable to go for split application. In India, some recommendation have come for wheat for split application of potassium. One can go for wheat as well as for rice. Many times when farmers are doing sowing of wheat or transplanting of paddy, that time potassic fertilizers are not available. There may be sometimes crisis, maybe one reason or other reason. Under those situations, if farmer could not apply potassic fertilizer at the time of sowing or planting, then it can be applied in the standing crop as top dressing, but particularly at early tilling stages, the K should be applied, then it can compensate for the potassium that could not be applied at the time of sowing. So, split application of potassium is useful. Some immobilization into clay lattice layers reduces availability, but a strong fixation into completely unavailable forms is fortunately restricted to a few special soil types. The utilization rate of K in fertilizers is about 50 to 60% during the year of application. That means situation is bit satisfactory compared to nitrogen and phosphorus. In phosphorus it may be 20%, 22%, in nitrogen it may be 30 to 40%, but in potassium it is satisfactory 50 to 60%, but still it will have some residual effect also if there is less leaching from the soil. So, when we give recommendation of the potassium application, it should be based upon the cropping system basis because it is going to have some residual effect in the soil. The K in common fertilizer like KCl and potassium sulphate is water soluble. Students must remember this fact. Therefore, these fertilizers can be used under fertigation system also. On addition to the soil, the fertilizer dissolves in the soil water and dissociate into cation, K ion and chloride, or if it is sulphate then sulphate ion. The cation K ion is largely held on the exchange complex as an exchangeable cation and a small amount is present in a freely mobile form in the soil solution. Thus, the K added to soils can be transformed into three fractions apart from any incorporation into the organic matter. In very sandy soils, particularly under high rainfall, potassium can also leach out of the root zone. This is already discussed. Similarly, a significant amount of available can be added to the soil through crop residues, litter fall or leaf fall and irrigation water in specific cases. So, there are situations where the cereal residue are cannot be used, then they can be composted. Composting of paddy straw or wheat straw or some other straw can be done and then it can be used to supply potassium. And it will supply of course other nutrients also, but it will contain very good quantities of potassium. Much of this potassium is soluble and can again be adsorbed on the exchange complex. Potassium is generally abundant in soil, but it too is present mostly in forms that are relatively unavailable for plant absorption, particularly whenever it is there in non-exchangeable form or fixed form, then its availability is very slow. Fortunately, however, most soils contain considerable non-exchangeable but slowly available forms of this element. So, in certain soils reserves are there, like in India, in Kerala state, the soils have very good reserves of potassium. Over time, this potassium can be released to exchangeable and soil solution forms that can be quickly absorbed by plant roots. Under such situation, plants will not suffer from the potassium deficiency because it is available in abundance. This is fortunate since the plant requirements for potassium are high, at least 5 to 10 times more than that of phosphorus and similar to that of nitrogen. In cereals, normally 1 ton of grain of cereal like rice or wheat requires 20 to 22 kilogram of nitrogen. It also requires about 22 to 24 kilogram of potassium. So, requirement for potassium by the cereals is almost similar to the nitrogen, and I have seen in some cases uptake or removal of potassium by cereals is more than that of nitrogen. So, over time this potassium can be released to exchangeable and soil solution form that can be quickly absorbed by plant roots. This is fortunate since the plant requirements for potassium are high. So, dear students, I think you have understood this lecture very well. In the beginning, we have seen different terminology related to potassium, and then we have seen soil dynamics of potassium in soil. We have also learned certain role, what kind of role potassium plays, and it is playing very important role as enzyme activator. It acts in opening and closing of stomata, and it is necessary for transport of carbohydrate also, like sugar cane, your potato, they require very large quantities of potassium. So, we have seen soil dynamics. In soil dynamics, we have seen different forms of potassium like minerals. Most of the potassium is present in mineral form, more than 90%, 95%, and we have seen that it is also present in non-exchangeable form or fixed form. The third form was exchangeable form, and also in the soil solution form. All these forms were in equilibrium system. Then we have also seen the fixation of phosphorus in soil. There are certain conditions or certain factors which affect the fixation of potassium, not phosphorus, fixation of potassium, and these factors are clay content and the kind of clay minerals. Generally, if you have 2:1 type of clay minerals, the fixation of K is high, and if you have 1:1 type of clay minerals, then fixation of K is less. And also we have seen that ammonium and potassium both are fixed in the interlayers of the clay minerals, and we can use some strategy to take out these nutrients from the interlayers of the clay minerals. And we have also seen a long list of fertilizers like muriate of potash, potassium sulphate, and many more fertilizers. We have also seen the characteristics, and most of the potassic fertilizer were water soluble like KCl, potassium chloride, all are water soluble. So far method of application of potassium is concerned, it should be applied basally, mostly basally. However, under certain conditions where leaching losses are very high, potassium can be used as sprit application also, and also foliar spraying is also possible under certain cases like potassium nitrate can be used, potassium sulphate can be used as a foliar spray, and in cases where there is water deficit also, potassium chloride, 2% potassium chloride can be used to counter the drought effect in such situation. For example, there is deficit of water in sugarcane, then 2% KCl can be used, which will counteract the ill effect of this drought. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.